Once upon a time, there lived a poor miller who had 3 sons. When the miller died, he left his oldest son the mill, his middle son the donkey, and his youngest son nothing but a cat. The youngest son felt cheated by his inheritance. "What am I supposed to do with just a cat?" he lamented. "At least my brothers can earn a living with what they received." To his great surprise, the cat stood up on his hind legs and spoke. "Do not worry, young master," said the cat. "I am no ordinary feline. Give me a pair of boots and a small sack, and I shall make your fortune." The young man was so astonished to hear the cat speak that he immediately found an old pair of boots and a sack for his unusual pet. The cat pulled on the boots, hung the sack around his neck, and headed out into the countryside. Puss in Boots, as he came to be known, went to a forest where he knew rabbits liked to play. He filled the sack with fresh herbs, opened it wide, and lay down beside it, pretending to be dead. Soon enough, a curious young rabbit hopped into the sack to nibble on the herbs. Quick as lightning, Puss pulled the drawstring tight, catching the rabbit. With his prize secured, the clever cat marched straight to the king's palace. He asked to speak with his majesty, and when granted an audience, he bowed low, his feathered hat sweeping the floor. "Your majesty," said Puss, "my master, the noble Marquis of Carabas, has instructed me to present you with this rabbit from his hunting grounds." The king, delighted with the gift, accepted it gratefully. "Thank your master for me," he said. For several months, Puss continued bringing gifts to the king, partridges, hares, and other game, always claiming they were from the Marquis of Carabas, who was, in fact, his poor master, who owned nothing but the clothes on his back. One day, Puss learned that the king and his beautiful daughter, the princess, would be riding along the river road. This was the opportunity he had been waiting for. He ran to his master with excitement. "Today, your fortune will change," he declared. "Go to the river and remove your clothes as if to bathe. Hide them under a rock and leave the rest to me." Although confused, the young man trusted his cat and did as he was told. As he was swimming in the river, the royal carriage approached. Puss in Boots began shouting at the top of his lungs. "Help! Help! The Marquis of Carabas is drowning!" The king recognized the name of the generous nobleman who had been sending gifts and ordered his guards to rescue the man from the river. As they pulled the young man to shore, Puss approached the king. "Oh, your majesty, what a disaster! Thieves have stolen my master's fine clothes while he was bathing. The Marquis is too modest to appear before you and the princess in such a state." The king immediately sent for new clothes for the supposed Marquis. Dressed in fine royal garments, the miller's son looked quite handsome indeed. The princess thought so too and smiled at him warmly as he was invited to ride in the royal carriage. Meanwhile, Puss ran ahead of the carriage. He came upon some peasants mowing a field and approached them with an authoritative air. "Listen carefully," he commanded. "When the king passes by and asks whose field this is, you must say it belongs to the Marquis of Carabas. If you don't, you'll be chopped as fine as minced meat." Frightened, the peasants agreed. When the royal carriage passed and the king inquired about the field, they all replied, "It belongs to the Marquis of Carabas, your majesty." The king was impressed and congratulated the young man on his extensive lands. Puss continued ahead, giving the same instructions to all workers he met in the fields and orchards. Finally, Puss arrived at a magnificent castle belonging to an ogre known to be the richest in the land. It was the ogre who truly owned all the lands Puss had claimed for his master. The cat requested an audience with the ogre, who was curious enough to grant it. "I've heard," said Puss respectfully, "that you possess the remarkable power to transform yourself into any creature you wish. They say you can become a lion or an elephant, but I can scarcely believe such magic is possible." The ogre, proud of his abilities, immediately transformed into a roaring lion. Puss, though frightened, stood his ground. "Impressive indeed," he exclaimed when the ogre returned to his normal form. "But surely changing into something large is simple. I bet you couldn't transform into something as small as, say, a mouse." That would truly be a feat of magic. The ogre, eager to prove his power, instantly changed into a mouse. In a flash, Puss pounced and swallowed the mouse ogre in one gulp. Just as the royal carriage approached the castle, Puss ran out to greet them at the front gates. "Welcome to the castle of the Marquis of Carabas," he announced grandly. The king was amazed by the splendor of the castle and impressed by the apparent wealth of the marquis. Seeing how the princess and the young man had been gazing at each other throughout the day, the king gave his blessing for them to marry. The miller's youngest son, now truly the master of the castle and married to the princess, lived happily ever after. And Puss in Boots? He was appointed Lord Chamberlain and never had to chase mice again, unless he wanted to. And that, my drowsy listener, is how cleverness and quick thinking can sometimes change your fortune. But remember, while Puss stretched the truth, he was loyal to his master and hurt no one but a wicked ogre.